the key takeaway is, do we have a responsible civilian, as a responsible person and a great citizen that can look after our planet and be a good steward for humankind? And that's essentially what we're trying to get when someone reads.
Thank you for joining us today. We're excited you're here to meet the author of today's book. Welcome to Digital Book Nooks, Meet the Author Show, where you can discover your next great book. With your host, D.G. Thomas. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to the Meet the Author Show. In today's episode, we're excited to introduce you to a captivating children's book that takes readers on a poetic journey through Britain's rich history while exploring important themes like colonialism, climate change, and culture. If you're a fan of meaningful stories that inspire critical thinking and a love for poetry, you are in for something special today. Our guest author today is Joshua Ferdinand. Raised by a single mother on a modest income, Joshua Ferdinand has always valued the power of connection and the importance of learning opportunities. His journey, shaped by resilience and determination, informs the depth and nuance of his work. The Last Words of Albion stand out as a thought-provoking exploration of history and ethics designed to inspire critical thinking and a lasting appreciation for poetry. So I would like to bring Joshua Ferdinand. Welcome, Joshua.
Hi.
I lost your bio for a split second. What happened? But welcome to the Meet the Author Show.
No, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, dear. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, and I'm going to start out today. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to start writing this book.
Yeah, so I used to have a copy up on the shelf behind me, but I actually sold out, funnily enough, just like yourself at the book fair. So I've actually entered it into a competition. So I have had to order some from the publisher. But the reason I got into writing is because since coming back to the UK, I got into academia from a career in clinical practice. And then before healthcare, I was actually a primary school teacher. And I've always had a love of that sort of age range, that sort of 7 to 11 age range, where people are so in tune with learning and they're inquisitive and kids are enjoying engaging with reading, and you can really have a great time. But what's happening and what I've seen happen over the past sort of maybe 5 to 10 years is the digitization of everything. And most recently, then as a result of that digitization, is the acceleration of the demand for content and content changing. So we want to read things quickly and then move on to the next thing very quickly now. So sort of TikTok, YouTube Shorts, everything's going into short form. And I thought there's a space for short form exploration while also looking at things like history and key topics like climate change as well can be included in short form communication. So I thought, let's try and pair haiku, kind of loosely haiku, into a format that will span the entire book. So each page is essentially a double page of haiku, syllable based rather than based around the sort of the nature purpose. However, the whole book is a collection that then is attributed to its natural form and its wonder of the beauty of nature of the UK. So in a way, it captures haiku as an overall theme in the book. So I like to think it's quite clever in that way. But yeah, the key thing is I got into it so kids could have that critical discussion after just reading very short form, meaningful words.
That's because of the short attention span of not just our kids, but everybody now. Most definitely that's a brilliant idea to use haiku as a way to tell this story. So tell us about the last words of Albion. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Albion.
Yeah, Albion.
Yes. What inspired you to create this particular blend of history?
Well, so as I mentioned, this one was something that's important to me because it's UK history. It's only a very small overview of history. It's not. It doesn't go into great depth. It covers a few major periods like the Great War or World War, without really quite defining exactly which one. It covers sort of, we go into looking at Samuel Pepys and the plague times and pivotal moments basically throughout history, particularly for British history. And I like the format because it then lends itself to doing it to other great civilizations and empires that are at the sort of, that have seen their day and had their decline. So there are cities that, particularly in Europe, that were once blossoming and, you know, huge metropolises that are actually quite small towns now. So one of them, Evian-les-Bains, at the base of the Swiss Alps, you know, in the 19th century was a prosperous big city. Everyone wanted to go there for the source of Evian, the water. But, you know, now it's a lot more quiet, which is just fascinating to me.
And I love that it's about UK history. Now I'm in the US, and so it opens up the opportunity for, you know, us abroad here to learn as well. So so let's talk about, who did you write this book for, and why do you think this book will resonate with them?
Yeah, so Keeley, that 7 to 12 age range, the book's for, but it's also for parents as well. And I think that, you know, parents or teachers, really, whoever's spending most time with them. But ultimately, I wanted it to be for parents, you know, mothers, fathers. I actually want to sit down, have a quick read with their kid, but actually also have a discussion about those key themes that come up in the book, like, you know, plague or pandemic, for example. You can have a discussion surrounding that. How do we feel? What do we think the right moves would be? Because a lot of people have been impacted by COVID in this age range, and even the parents have been impacted. And I think it's something that was probably, I didn't discuss it with my parents, like epidemics, pandemics. I didn't really know what that sort of health situation was, but actually talking about viral disease and how you protect yourself in public domain if something does spread by, like, you know, covering up and things like that. It seems like it is taught in Japanese society, because when people fall ill, and some other Asian societies as well, people actually wear a mask to protect the collective, which is quite interesting. I think my friends say they do that in Korea as well. So it's quite an interesting behavior pattern. And I think that's what I wanted. I wanted resilient individuals to sort of come out the end of this sort of book reading with their parent, or, you know, after the end of this, you know, the key takeaway is, do we have a responsible civilian, as a responsible person and a great citizen that can look after our planet and be a good steward for humankind? And that's essentially what we're trying to get when someone reads this book.
So your book explores significant themes like colonialism, climate change, cultural evolution. What do you hope that the readers will take away and from engaging with these themes? So I know you talked about, like, them having conversations with their parents or caregivers, educators. What are you hoping that they're able to do with this, with the themes from the book, learn from?
Yeah, absolutely. So Keeley, take away that key message that you know, we have a responsibility for collective prosperity, essentially, and we have a responsibility to each other to remember things like war, and then also to not forget, in the pursuit of high density cities and high density population living, which is the way we seem to be going as a society. We all want to live in a city where we can earn more money, and it seems like that's what's driving economies in a lot of countries. Then if that's the case, we can't forget that people do need to tend to nature and look after the planet. We can't just sort of concrete over everything, you know. And the penultimate poem is a question about, can we call ourselves a civilization? Are we so civilized if we destroy the planet in which we live? And recently, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists ticked the clock closer to midnight. The famous saying, I think we're now 89 seconds to midnight. And that happens, on world events and based on climate change, on a variety of factors that they consider to say how close we are to humanity's own self-destruction. And we, according to them, are at this precipice right now. We are facing natural disaster, essentially, and potential human disaster as well in the format of war. So there's never been a more important time to read something like this and take this message away, right? Because
just discuss climate change, because I can say, it's funny, we were talking about before we started recording that we were talking about just different generations. Well, I can say, like, I know for a fact we never talked about climate change. When I was younger, we talked about climate, but, as in seasons, as in weather, clouds and all, learning about what it was. But I know for a fact it was not even under the radar for us that the climate was changing, that our environment was changing. We talked about, the whole ship, the plate tectonics and all that kind of stuff. But how that came about, I think as I've grown older, I realized that it is climate change that had an impact on that had an impact on that. Our world didn't just change, that there were influences and things that happened to make it change. And so for our younger children to be aware of that, and if there is anything that we can do to slow it down, to prevent it, to, adapt, whatever we need to do as human beings, that it's important for them to learn how to have that conversation now, I think so.
Yeah, we got to start taking action.
Yes.
It's serious. We got to start taking action. And you know what? I had the same experience as you, Dee. I went to school in the 90s. And it's after the 80s, bearing in mind, when they had the CFC crisis and they had to try and remove CFC from the atmosphere because we'd pretty much blown a hole in our own ozone. And then we're saying, right, so we know, okay, CFCs were bad. We take them out of a lot of things. Hopefully that's going to put us in a better situation. But yeah, in the 90s, they didn't put that into the educational program. We learned about the water cycle. We learned about lots of things, but they didn't say, oh, actually, by the way, when we first started refrigeration, we put loads of gases around and actually...
no accountability, none. So, and now we're all paying for it. So it's like, so yeah, we need to educate our children to do better than we did. So, so let's talk about our history. So your book integrates the historical events and the ecological messages and using artistic elements like watercolors, right? So can you share more about your creative process behind combining those mediums with the poetry?
Well, yeah, I had a friend at university, so she was able to do beautiful watercolor illustrations and digitize them. And I just thought it's one of those styles of artwork that I absolutely adore, because it's just so magical when something's watercolored painted. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels when you sort of scan across the pages of a watercolor image. And then I thought that would go perfectly with haiku. And so this actually initially came about. The haikus were initially written as a series and probably put into spoken word poetry and into a song. And you actually find them still in some rare collections actually as a song. So I had someone sing it first. I then wrote a little piano piece to go with it and had someone sing it to that instrumental. And that was quite nice as well. But actually, to really get the power out of this, it needed to have an artwork, a visual image with it. So I'm exploring different ways of engaging and different ways learners pick up things. And actually the visual stimulation added a lot more power to the actual short words, so you can actually then, or the sort of short phrases, short
Right.
poems. So you can actually just sort of draw the whole picture together
Right.
with word and image, and it just works beautifully.
It does, and of course, in children's work, you need that visual to complement the words, and I think that that the watercolors and the poetry are a beautiful complement together.
Yeah, and there's things that we've done throughout. So we added
Mhm.
different animals, so British animals that go through the book.
Mhm.
So then you can say sort of how many animals can you find in the book. So there's
Right.
sort of those activities that they can play. And then one of them, it looks at the industrialization, the first industrial revolution, the concept of mining and putting canaries in the mines. It actually then invites, so it's got questions and activities in the back, so parents don't have to really do any hard yards. They can actually just look, have a look at the question and pose that question to their kids. Sort of, what do you think about putting canaries in a coal mine to see if it's safe for people? And most, I think the natural response is, that's horrible. You can't do that for a canary. You can't do that to the bird. What about the animal,
No.
right? So,
Right.
and yet we still do quite a lot of animal testing, and that's the other side of me. Part of me as an academic at the moment, and in a science field and a medical discipline, sometimes there is benefit to experiments that include animals. So for example, when we're looking at medicine and testing medication, or to help people, then of course these laboratory experiments are quite important. Yet the reality is, the ethics, the deep ethics, spiritual ethics of lab rats and things like that probably would make most people give most people the ick. I would say.
I know, would give me the egg. Oh, so speaking of your background as a teacher and your personal journey have clearly, influenced your work. I know you're talking about the activities in the back. I could hear the educator in you there. So, how did your experiences shape the narrative and the themes within the book?
Yeah, I mean that was a core driver essentially. So some of the themes, like the war, obviously that encompassed most of Europe, so that's why that's a huge theme. You've got elements of sort of poetic prose, so I wanted to encourage that kind of literacy, and I think it influenced me to also be more philanthropic with the work as well. So we do a haiku contest every year, where the kid that submits, well, it could be an adult as well, but whoever submits the best haiku are voted on by the community will win a copy of the book. So we're trying to encourage other people to write sort of short poetry formats, and to just enjoy that form that looks at nature in a short format and doesn't take up too much time. So how can you write impactfully, with purpose? And I think that's one of the key things that I was trying to get across, is we can be succinct and short in our communication styles, but also they can be powerful. So bring out the powerful words, bring out sort of, a total of 17 syllables. I mean, that's the old school format. That's not the technical format of a haiku anymore.
Right.
But the important thing is to sort of, consider the juxtaposition of something beautiful in nature and the environment, or something along those lines. And yeah, bring out the critical thinker. So each poem is designed in a way that will bring out some, evoke an emotion, evoke a response of some kind, and then at the end, you get asked a few questions about different elements of the book. So one of the pages, for example, is like I was saying, it's got the canary in the coal mine, but also on that page you've got layers of the earth. So you go through different levels of geology, and it also has different swords and shields from different periods of history throughout British history, because we had periods where the Tudors were here, the Romans, the Saxons, for example, all at different timestamps. So they will be all at different levels and different layers. It's imperfect, of course, because it is ultimately fiction, but it's fairly accurate.
Okay. So what is next in your journey as an author? Do you have any other projects that you're working on?
Well, primarily at the moment, just promote this book, to get this one some traction, to get some feedback on it from schools, from teachers, from parents. If anyone out there listening, I adore feedback and I love honest feedback. So please leave it on Goodreads or wherever you read your books, wherever you get your books, because that's really important to me, to know how it worked for you, and what you'd like to see. If you love, I've had a lot of feedback saying they love the format, and there's even potential for me to maybe expand it. So actually go through more of the British history in the Last Words of Albion, the second version potentially, or look at doing the last words of another civilization that has fallen. Not that I'm saying the UK and the Anglo-American Empire has fallen, but
so let me see. So I want to show your book. Hold on. This is The Last Words of Albion, and it's available at Amazon. And then this is also Joshua's website if you'd like to visit to learn more about the book. Well, Joshua, it's been wonderful talking with you today, and thank you so much for joining us and sharing your interesting story. I wish you the best on your journey here with this book. Is this your first book?
It is. This is my debut book, so enjoy it. Give me lots of feedback and look out for a second, because it's going to be great.
And you're right. When I think a lot of times authors, a lot of people think that the reviews help to sell the book, but it also helps us in subsequent writing to get that feedback, like, oh, I didn't think about that, or oh, And so I love to get the reviews as well, just because the feedback is really helpful in my writing as well. Okay, so thank you again. And once again, everybody, the book is available at Amazon, and please stop by and visit his website. All right. So Joshua Albion's book is thought-provoking, beautifully illustrated, and beautiful poetry. Such interesting information about Britain's history, and told through such a creative medium. Thank you so much, Joshua, for sharing your story with us today. And everyone, please be sure to visit our website to read the rest of Joshua's interview on the Digital Book blog. So thank you again for tuning in to the show. Have a great day and goodbye.